Hello and welcome to Silent Creativa. I was always quite interested in history, and I always wanted to make a more or less historical accurate doll. But I never did. And so I decided it is time to do one. And so I had to think about a period of time which would be interesting for me, especially for a dress, because most of the work will be the dress. And yeah, it was quite fast that I thought, oh, Middle Ages. This small period of time that has round about 1000 years in it, which makes a lot of dresses. And so I started with our little model for today. Though I'm not a fashion historian, I have to base what I will tell you now just on my own research. So I hope it's more or less accurate. First, I want to introduce you to, let's give her a totally strange name, Walburga. She will be our model for today, and on her I will show you some different styles. Here our lovely Walburga wears a dress which is more or less from the 5th century, so from the start of the medieval times, and very loose, not very fitted, and extremely boring for a doll. We make a small step around about 700 years, and we have a dress from the 13th century where the clothing would be a little bit more tailored in the waist, on the sleeves, and dresses like this would be worn up to the end of the medieval times. You can find dresses like this one, which is more or less from 1500, and here you can already see the V neckline, which was worn in the Renaissance era a lot. And yeah, so we have three styles and a lot of options. For the base layer, I decided to go with a very simple dress, which is more or less like the 13th century dress. I made it out of silver brocade, and yeah, it was quite shiny, so you saw nothing on the footage. And for the main layer, I thought, let's do something very long and heavy and make it out of purple velvet. And again, you saw nothing on the footage because it was too dark. So I skipped all the sewing stuff. And of course, she needed a belt in the end. And I made this out of some jewelry pieces, and yeah. Though the fabrics were quite heavy and expensive, but that is another thing, I decided to go with a 1 to 3 ball jointed doll and not with a Monster High because I think the fabrics would be a lot too thick for such a small doll. And though I wanted everything to look extremely, yeah, pretty and flowy, I thought a bigger doll would be the better decision. As far as I know, makeup was nothing that you would use in the medieval times. So I went with mainly reds to give her something like an natural blushing or redness. Maybe I did a little bit too much, but she looks okay. Or I think she looks quite nice, but on the pictures and now on the footage, I think it looks very reddish. It's not that extreme in person. Um, yeah, and I try to use nothing too harsh, nothing black, just to give her a very soft and smooth feeling. And yeah, no makeup look. That sounds totally strange. Though on this doll there are already holes for the eyes, I obviously had to make inserted eyes, so I just needed 3 coats of MSC for the whole repaint process, which was quite nice because normally I use up to 6 layers, I think, and it went quite well, I think. As usual, I struggled with the lashes a lot, but in the end it was okay. I wasn't able to find lighter lashes than the brown ones I use here. I think something lighter would have been the better choice for her, but I'm fine with it. It looks quite nice. Let's talk about the dress for a moment again. Though the brocade and the velvet were either too shiny or too dark to really be shown on camera, I thought I will try it with drawings, and I think it will get strange. But anyway, for the main pattern, to get the main pattern, I went with a method that Morgan Donner shows in her video, and I will link it down below. It is for a human-sized person, not for a doll, but you can use the same method as she did. And I really love Morgan's channel because she explains her videos quite well, I think. And yeah, if you want to make some historical clothing for a doll or for yourself, her videos are very great. And as far as I know, they are accurate. Again, not a fashion historian, so don't take my word for it. If you follow Morgan's tutorial, you get something like this. The only difference is the sleeve has normally an S curve. I changed this to this rounded shape to get it into the armpit earlier to close the sleeve with the side seam in one row. Then I changed the pattern a little bit for the dress that goes over the base and made a second sleeve. And that was the pattern. After I cut out everything out of fabric, I first had to lay the 2 front pieces onto each other and close the front seam. Then it was time to connect the 2 back parts onto the 2 front parts, just on the shoulder for now. Next step, sewing in the sleeve and then closing everything from the start of the sleeve to the end of the dress. In front of this I had to close the hem on the sleeve, but I think you get the idea. After some research on European beauty standards in the Middle Ages, I found out that most of the sources told me, yeah, the most stereotypical things. Blue eyes, blonde hair. To be exact, very light blue eyes. I went with some grayish blue eyes instead that were a little bit darker because I thought light skin, light hair, light eyes, it would make everything a little bit, yeah, the same in the face region. And though the velvet was very dark, and I thought a little bit darker eyes would be more fitting for her. I made the basic eye out of resin and then colored the eye with the iris with acrylic paint. Colored a half bead in black and just put it into the middle of the eye as pupil, and then I just put some clear UV resin into it and let it dry. And then it was time to finally get them into the eye sockets. That was a little bit tricky. They always fell down, and in the end I finally did it, and yeah, then I was quite happy with her. It started with gluing on the hair. I used some hair that is normally used for braid. Though I want her hair to be as long as possible, I just cut the braid in half and glued it directly onto the doll, and yeah, the hair was too heavy. After 10 minutes or so, everything was down to her ears. She had an extremely big bald spot at the top of her head, and I had to remove everything again. I covered her head in aluminium foil and 2 layers of cling film to glue the wefts or the hair on with hot glue. And though I was quite annoyed, I forgot to film this part. So you have to handle with or deal with just the footage where I glued it directly on, and with the finished result with the hot glue method, which went quite well. I hope you liked my attempt to make a more historical accurate doll, more or less historical accurate doll. And yeah, if you like and subscribe and do all the stuff, and yeah, have a nice time, and until next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.